The initial departure is not a fracture, but a release. When she first walks away, the dominant sensation is not loss, but relief. It's a visceral unclenching, as if a constant low-grade pressure she had learned to tolerate has finally vanished. In the sudden quiet, she mistakes the absence of friction for the presence of freedom. This is the foundational lie she tells herself, and she embraces it with the fervor of a convert. She is the hero of her own story, having finally broken free from the weight of a relationship that, in her retrospective narrative, was holding her back. She convinces herself she has made the only rational choice, that the future is a blank slate of infinite possibility, where a better, more exciting partner and a more vibrant life await. The past is neatly filed away as a lesson, not a loss. In these first few weeks, she does not suffer. She is far too busy for that. She actively constructs a new reality, one that is deliberately loud and full of motion. Her schedule becomes a weapon against introspection. Nights out with friends are not just for fun. They are performances of liberation, documented and shared as proof of her thriving state. Endless scrolling through social media is not boredom, but a curated search for evidence that the world is full of better options. There are new conversations, sometimes flirtatious, with new people. These interactions are intoxicating not for their depth, but for their novelty. They are unburdened by history or expectation, and they provide a fresh stream of validation, making her feel desirable and back in control. This entire phase is a campaign of distraction, a concerted effort to convince the outside world and, more importantly, herself, that she does not care. The noise is a shield. The laughter is a little too loud, the posts a little too perfect, the energy a little too frantic. Beneath the surface, there is a frantic quality to it all, a silent insistence that she is fine, she is great, she is finally living. She actively refuses to sit with the silence because in those unguarded moments, a faint, disquieting echo might be heard. But for now, she can outrun it. She analyzes your shared history through a lens of justified grievance, magnifying every flaw and disappointment to fortify her decision. She feels a sense of power, believing that by leaving, she has dictated the terms of the ending. What she has not yet realized is that this initial freedom is a phantom built on the temporary high of escape, and that the silence she is so diligently avoiding will eventually become inescapable. The noise is not a new life. It is the prelude to a profound and unsettling quiet. The campaign of noise cannot be sustained forever. The distractions, once so potent, begin to lose their power. The late nights out start to feel repetitive. Conversations with new people feel hollow and rehearsed. The endless scrolling becomes a numbing ritual rather than an exciting exploration. It is in this lull, in the quiet spaces between the planned activities, that the silence she once craved begins to creep in. This is not the peaceful quiet she anticipated. It is an empty, echoing silence that highlights an absence she is not yet ready to name. The initial relief begins to curdle into a low-grade restlessness. The world feels less vivid, as if a filter has been applied, muting the colors of her newfound freedom. The first pangs are not of longing, but of habit. Her brain, wired to the rhythm of the relationship, sends out signals at predictable times. She instinctively reaches for her phone upon waking, expecting a good morning text that is no longer there. The end of a long day arrives, and there is a subconscious anticipation of a call, a voice to decompress with, a shared repository for the day's minor frustrations and small victories. This surface-level missing is not for you, the complex individual, but for the role you played in the architecture of her daily life. It is an autonomic response, the emotional equivalent of a phantom limb. She dismisses these moments as a residual habit, a system still flushing out the old code, and she redoubles her efforts to fill the gaps. Perhaps planning another outing or losing herself in a new series, but the silence is patient and persistent. It begins to dig deeper, moving beyond the skeleton of routine to the marrow of emotional need. This is when the void becomes undeniable. She faces a setback at work, or a moment of personal doubt, and the automatic reflex to share it with you, to seek your perspective or your comfort hits a wall of nothingness. The attention she had taken for granted, the steady background hum of your investment in her life, is suddenly gone, and the quiet it leaves behind is deafening. The security you provided, a foundation so solid she never thought to test it, has vanished, and she feels the first tremors of instability. She used your admiration as a mirror to see her best self, and without it, her own reflection seems less certain, more blurred. This is the true beginning of the ache, not for the texts or the calls, but for the emotional ecosystem you provided, one she only realizes was there once the climate is changed. The failure of the replacement strategy marks a critical turning point. The initial excitement of a new connection, if one has been sought, begins to fray at the edges, revealing a shallow core. This is where missing you transforms from a passive feeling of absence into an active, conscious act of comparison. The new man, for all his novelty, does not understand the subtle shorthand of her language. He misses the meaning behind a particular sigh, fails to laugh at an inside joke that is no longer inside. And his energy, whether too eager or too aloof, feels foreign, where yours felt like home. The thrill of the unknown curdles into the discomfort of being fundamentally unknown. What felt like freedom now feels like loneliness in a crowded room. This involuntary comparison becomes the relentless enemy of her denial. It is no longer a vague sense that something is missing, but a precise, painful catalog of everything that was lost. Her mind, once focused on justifying her exit, now flips the script. Nostalgia begins its quiet, insidious work, slowly rewiring her internal narrative from a triumphant, "I don't need him," to a confused and aching, "No one else feels like him." The new man's attempts at humor fall flat. Not because they aren't clever, but because they aren't yours. His mannerisms, his touch, even the way he listens, it all serves as a constant, grating reminder that he is not you. It is rarely the grand cinematic gestures that haunt her now. Instead, it is the archaeology of intimacy, the unearthed fragments of a shared world that causes the deepest ache. She is ambushed by the memory of the quiet rituals, the unspoken understanding that passed between you during a tedious party, the way your presence alone could calm the storm of her anxiety after a long day, the safety of walking down a dark street with your hand in hers. These were the invisible anchors of her daily life, the micro moments of being seen, known, and secure. She realizes with a sinking clarity that a new man can buy her dinner. Her friends can fill her weekends. But no one else can replicate the unique ecosystem of comfort and understanding you built together. This realization is a profound loss. The comparison is no longer between you and another man. It is between the depth of what she had and the stark superficiality of what she has now. The ghost of your presence becomes the standard against which all other connections are measured, and they all, without exception, are found wanting. The most profound and unsettling shift occurs not from within her, but from a chilling perception of a change in you. As long as she believed your silence was a tactic, a paused game, where you were still a player waiting for your turn, she felt no real urgency. Her sense of power, though diminished, remained intact. But the moment the evidence accumulates into an undeniable truth, the entire foundation of her reality shakes. She realizes your silence is not a strategy born of weakness or a ploy for her attention. It is a reflection of genuine strength. It is the sound of you moving on. The music of your life is playing again, and she is no longer in the song. This realization that you have actively chosen peace over her chaos, that your world has continued to spin and even brighten in her absence, sends a jolt of pure panic through her system. This panic is rooted in a terrifying new understanding. Your presence in her life was never a permanent fixture. It was a choice you were making, and you have now unmade it. The safety net she assumed would always be there has been pulled away, and she is in free fall. The cruelest irony now fully manifests. Your disciplined restraint is the very thing that sharpens her ache to its finest point. Had you begged, pleaded, or flooded her inbox with angry or sorrowful messages, she would have felt a familiar sense of control. Your pain would have been her validation, proof of her lasting impact in your continued orbit. But your silence offers no such comfort. Instead, it creates a vacuum, an empty space, where her imagination runs wild, breeding anxieties far more punishing than any reality. Her mind, now starved of any real data from you, begins to torment her with terrifying questions. Has she been replaced so easily? Is there someone else who now receives the calm and security she once took for granted? Do you ever think of her at all, or has she been erased so completely? This uncertainty is a special kind of torture because it is a game she cannot play, a narrative she cannot control. The one thing she secretly fears most is happening. She is losing her emotional ownership over a man she once believed would always be hers to command. Your silence is the ultimate demonstration of your independence, and in the face of it, her power evaporates. She is left with the chilling realization that the consequences of her choice are not just her loneliness, but your apparent liberation. The tables have turned not with a shout, but with a quiet, unbreakable, and devastating calm. The final stage is not a single moment of clarity, but a slow, grinding descent into a state of relentless obsession. Missing you is no longer a passing emotion that visits in quiet moments. It becomes a physical, constant presence, an addiction her system cannot purge. She feels it as a tangible weight in her chest when she lies down at night, a hollow ache that no distraction can fill. Her body has become a traitor to her pride. Her heart races at a fleeting memory, a song on the radio, the scent of a cologne on a stranger. Her stomach knots when she calculates the weeks and months that have silently slipped by. Her fingers literally itch with the compulsion to text you, a nervous tic she has to consciously suppress. This is withdrawal in its purest form, and every cell in her body screams for the emotional stimulation it was accustomed to receiving from you. Her mind, now completely unrestrained, becomes both a torture chamber and a cinema of idealized memories. She is an emotional archivist, and against her will, her brain replays scenes with a vivid, cruel clarity. It's not the broad strokes she remembers, but the hyperspecific details, the exact timbre of your voice when you were trying not to laugh, the way your eyes crinkled at the corners in the morning light, the specific rhythm of your footsteps coming down the hall. She doesn't want to remember these things, but they come uninvited, each one a small, precise dagger of regret. The more she tries to focus on the flaws, the reasons she left, the more her mind defiantly drags her back to the things she loved, painting the past in brighter, more romantic colors than it ever possessed in reality. This internal war fractures what remains of her pride. The walls she built, once formidable bastions of denial, now show deep cracks under the constant pressure of truth. She begins a painful, private rewriting of history. The arguments she once wielded as proof of your incompatibility are now re-examined, and she sees her own overreactions. Your calm stability, which she once misinterpreted as boredom, now appears as a rare and valuable anchor in a chaotic world. The simple, consistent acts of showing up, the quiet dinners, the way you handled her storms without folding, have become treasures in hindsight, things no new person offers. This reflection is transformative and brutal, for she is no longer asking why you left. She is asking why she was so careless with what she had. This shift in focus from blame to self-reproach marks the deepest stage of regret. She is now trapped in an impossible prison of her own making, caught between the desperate need to reach out and the paralyzing fear of your response. She drafts long confessional texts, her fingers hovering over the send button before she deletes them, the potential humiliation feeling like a physical blow. She imagines scenarios where she accidentally runs into you, rehearsing what she would say. But she knows, on some level, she is rehearsing for a play that may never be staged. The silence that has passed has built an immense wall between you, and every day it grows higher. The man she wants to reach is the man you were. The man she would actually be contacting is the man you have become, a man hardened and clarified by her absence, who no longer seeks her validation. This realization leads to her ultimate torment. The ghost of you now haunts her every future prospect. Every new man she meets is unconsciously held up against the standard you unknowingly set. They are all found wanting. They are too eager, too available, too desperate to please. They lack the quiet, unshakable strength you embodied. They fold under pressure where you stood firm. You have become the invisible, unassailable benchmark, and this comparison is a trap from which she cannot escape. It ensures that no new connection can take root, as every potential partner is overshadowed by the memory of the one who refused to break. Your silence, which began as a tool for your own protection, has now become a permanent, unyielding verdict. You did not have to announce you're moving on. You simply did. You didn't have to explain your piece. You simply lived it. And in doing so, you taught her the hardest lesson of all, that some losses are absolute. The power has irrevocably shifted. While she remains trapped in the silent, looping torment of what if, you inhabit the open landscape of what's next. Your victory is not in winning her back, but in having become a man who no longer needs to. You left her with nothing but the echo of your absence, and in that echoing silence, she finally understands the true weight of what she let go.